Welcome back. I'm here today on the campus of Southern Virginia University with Madison Sowell. And Madison, welcome to today's show.
Thank you, Alan. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Madison, you're currently serving as the provost here at Southern Virginia University.
That is correct.
But I'd like to get your background of how did you end up getting here as a provost out in the small campus of Virginia?
Well, a provost, as you know, is the chief academic officer. So I've been involved in academics for about 35 years. I was a graduate student at Harvard University, where I got my master's and my doctorate in Romance languages and literatures. And then for over 30 years, I taught at Brigham Young University, where I was a department chair. I had a professorship. I was the associate dean of undergraduate education and the honors program director. And after 30 years, I decided to retire, and I was on the board of trustees of Southern Virginia University at the time of my retirement. And a year later, the provost accepted another job, and the president asked if I would come and serve as the interim provost. So I did that for 1 year, and then at the end of the year, the president said, "We've chosen our new provost." And I said, "Who is she or he?" And he said, "It's you." So I accepted to do that, and so I've been here for 5 years total.
Now, provost is basically, in the business world, to be like the chief operating officer. They're in charge of the academic curriculum for the school.
Right. The term provost is often misunderstood. In fact, in England, the provost is the warden of a prison. So I tell my students, it's a good thing we're liberated from England and I'm not a prison warden. But as chief academic officer, I'm over the faculty, over the curriculum. The library reports to me, the registrar's office, travel study. These are the things that I oversee.
Well, when you're starting, and you have a fabulous educational background, but at what point in time in your, as you were going to school, did you decide education was your pathway?
I have always enjoyed teaching. I enjoyed being a student. When I was in high school, I went to a good high school in Memphis, Tennessee. And when I was an undergraduate, I enjoyed, I was in an honors program, and I enjoyed the small classes there and interacting with teachers. And I thought, this is something I would enjoy doing. I would enjoy getting my own research program, get my own graduate degree, and then teach. Not just a subject, but teach students. And so I've enjoyed, as I said, for over 35 years now, teaching as well as administering. So I teach as well as I administer the programs.
Now, your Harvard PhD is in Romance literature.
Romance languages and literatures. I specialized in Italian language and literature. I have lived in Italy on 2 different occasions, once for 2 years and once for 3 years. So I'm fluent in Italian as well as English.
And I guess as part of that major, I know that you have a special affinity or love of the arts, and especially around the cathedrals and the old churches there. How did you fall into that?
Well, people are often surprised to learn that I was born in a very rural setting in Arkansas. I actually grew up in Piggott, P-I-G-G-O-T-T, Piggott, Arkansas, a small farming community of about 3,000 people. And my father was a farmer, and I, growing up, only knew about these cathedrals through magazines, and really had a difficult time imagining that I would ever be able to leave the farm, so to speak. And through actually a tragedy, my father was killed when I was 8 years old. In an accident, and so my mother and I struggled for about 8 years trying to run the farm, and we couldn't make it. So we decided we would sell the farm and move to a large city where I could go to a good high school. And so that's when we moved to Memphis, and I was able to study classes that just weren't available to me in the small rural community. And there I started going to museums, concerts, and enjoyed something that I just hadn't been able to enjoy as a child. And so the enthusiasm grew. I went on my first travel study when I was 17, went to Europe for 6 weeks, and you've been to Europe with us. Once you're there and on site, your enthusiasm for learning more things grows, and so I've continued over the years to travel, to take students and also the parents on trips to Europe, and it becomes infectious. The more you see, the more you learn about the cathedrals, about the museums, about the artists, about the music, about the literature, about the drama, the theater, the dance, the ballet. At least in my case, it's just inspired further study, further research. So it's kind of grown. The little seed was probably there when I was in the little farming community, but I didn't know how I would ever be able to plant that seed and nourish it. But through this unfortunate circumstance of my father's death, we were forced essentially to move to the big city, and lots of opportunities ended up opening up to us.
Madison, I need to take a quick break.
Okay.
I'm visiting here today with Madison Sal. He's the provost at Southern Virginia University. We'll take a break and be right back after these messages.
I love fishing, with my family.
I think it would be easier to use a net.
It was so much fun.
The times when we are together, it makes it all the more worth it.
Having Dad teach them how to cast a fly rod, and
as long as we're doing stuff together, we're having fun.
Some people see a father and a son fishing together, while others see a succession plan.
Welcome back. I'm visiting here today with Madison Sal. He's a provost at Southern Virginia University, and you mentioned in the first segment some 35 years in education, and spending the majority of those teaching years and administrative at Brigham Young University in Provo. Now, you came to this sleepy little community, Buena Vista, Virginia. I had to look it up on a map first time I was coming down, but what really differentiates this school?
First of all, it's a liberal arts college. It's not a public or state university. It's a private liberal arts college, and liberal arts colleges have a much more limited focus in the sense of majors. We only have 13 majors, but instead our emphasis is on skills that will serve you in any profession. Skills such as critical thinking, analytical reasoning, and the ability to articulate your thoughts, both in speech and also in writing. So whether you choose to major in English or politics, biochemistry, or math, you have teachers in small classroom settings, usually 15 students in a classroom, and they're emphasizing not just the mastery of the subject, but also how to learn. So learning how to learn is one of our focuses. How do you think critically? How do you analyze something? How do you express yourself in writing or in speech? We call it the genius of small because the classes are small. The students are expected to do their homework. You may say, well, is that expected at a large research university? And it is, but oftentimes the lectures there might have 150, 250, 300, even 800 or 900 students. Here, the professors know the students by name. If you're not prepared in class, the professor knows it because you're sitting usually in a circle or semicircle or around a seminar table. You're called on by name. You're expected to be able to respond, to learn how to ask questions and question answers. And so the focus when we talk about a liberal arts college is just that. It's learning how to be liberated through knowledge, learning how to be liberated through the ability to think through an issue, to ask the right question, to ponder, to weigh the evidence and come up with a response that is thoughtful, a solution that is useful, that is helpful. So it's exciting for me to, number one, work so closely with the students. Number two, to see how much they grow over the course of a year, 2 years, 3 years, and 4 years. So I enjoy the challenge. we accept students from a wide variety of backgrounds academically. So we prefer to think of our students as being the motivationally elite. It's true that some have been accepted to Ivy League schools and have chosen to come here, but others are the first in their families ever to come to college to seek an education. And so with that much diversity in a classroom, the teacher has to be sensitive to the learning styles of the students and really get to know them. And it's in that getting to know them that there's a great deal of satisfaction.
You know, it's almost like a mentorship with 15 kids in the classroom, and does the academic performance really show that, you know, the closeness to the student and the teacher in terms of their ability to go on to graduate school? Do you have statistics?
It is.
that
We
you
do
quote, or what?
have statistics. About 40% of our students will go on to graduate school. The most amazing thing is that when a couple of years ago, when we did a standardized test with the freshmen, we found out that they performed at about the 68th percentile. That means they performed better than 68% of the students who took it. But 4 years later, with the seniors, they performed at the 93rd percentile. So taking a group at the 68th percentile and turning out 4 years later these students coming in at the 68th percentile and going out at the 93rd percentile, that's the value added of a liberal arts education. That's the value added of a small, intimate classroom. That's the value added of the mentorship program that we have.
I'm visiting here today with Madison Sowell. He's the provost here at Southern Virginia University. I need to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after these messages.
Okay.
Since you can't take your wealth with you, spend time with your family. Welcome back. I'm visiting here today with Madison Sowell, and we've been talking about Southern Virginia University, the time that you are serving right now currently as a provost here in this school. And as mentioned in the last segment, the freshman class on standardized tests was scoring in the 68th percentile. By the time they're seniors, it's up to the 93rd percentile. And that's being attributed to the classroom size. But I understand it's not just that they're graduating, the time that they graduate is a lot quicker, too.
Students can certainly go during summer term. And we have streamlined our requirements so that it is easier to transition from the core requirements, that is the general education requirements, into their major, so that there's a good segue there. We also value internship experiences and give credits for internships that they do during the summer. So the average student graduates actually between 3.5 and 3.9 years, so it's a little bit less than 4 years. We have a liberal policy for accepting transfer credit. We want the students to benefit from their life experiences, whether that's at a junior college, a community college, before they come here. So we try to take down the barriers that would keep them from graduating within that 4-year period.
So Madison, when you're looking at 35-year span of education in the classroom, how has it evolved over the term of your career?
When I was a graduate student at Harvard, the standard model was the lecture. And so the professor, oftentimes a world-renowned authority, would come in and would lecture to the students. There would be rarely slides. Their PowerPoints were unheard of. The computer, the personal computer, was unheard of in the early to mid 70s. And so what I've seen over the last 35 years is the the introduction of more and more technology into the classroom. While we had overhead projectors, certainly in the 70s, we had mimeograph sheets that we could pass out. Now, with technology, the amount of information that is available to the students before they come into the class, and certainly to the professor, is phenomenal. The interesting thing is that technology can supplement very nicely the lecture, but we want our students to be active learners. We want to engage them. So it's very important for us to have projects that the students work on. The students make presentations in class. They do group work. It can be small group work. We organize study groups that are outside. And across the nation, the notion of flipping the classroom has really taken education by storm. The students do the reading, the homework, the assignments outside of class. When they come in the classroom, the teacher, instead of lecturing, is engaging them, and they're engaging the teacher with their understanding of the material. So they might very well have questions that they receive before they ever come to the classroom, so that they've had time to think about those individually or with study groups. Then with the technology that's available to us, we can bring in guest lecturers through Skyping or telecommunicating. We can bring in YouTube videos so that they could hear some of the great minds, or see some of the great artists, or hear some of the great music performed right there, essentially in the classroom. So technology used well can supplement, enrich, make for an experience in the classroom that is not limited to the small community of Buena Vista, Virginia. Really, the world can be our classroom through the technology. So one of the greatest innovations is that in flipping the classroom, we use technology outside of the classroom. We can make assignments to the students so that they can see things, experience things outside the classroom, and then discuss them in the classroom. We also, of course, are interested in blended learning, so that's a term that is used for learning that is not based on just one model. Part of it may be that the professor delivers a lecture that the students can hear at any time, day or night. Or the students are allowed to attend the classroom from their dorm room if they're ill. These are all things that I have seen in the course of my now almost 40-year career that simply weren't expected. When I was an undergraduate in the early 70s, when we typed a paper, we typed it on a standard typewriter. We were lucky we had an electric typewriter, and then a self-correcting typewriter. And the possibilities that the computer introduces to us, not only for preparing our papers, but also for researching right there through the internet, opens up just a vast array of possibilities. Almost too many for some students, because there are so many possibilities for doing their research that we have to train them to know which research is more valuable, which is more trustworthy, if you will.
There must always be a balancing act of how do you continue to stay current with technological advancement while still maintaining the core curriculum of the things necessary to instill within each student.
Absolutely. Balance is key. My own scholarly specialty is Dante's Divine Comedy, and there are literally hundreds of articles that are published every year. So the ability to keep abreast of the research that is coming out is more than one person's full-time job. And so we have to rely on, how shall I put it, the technology mustn't be an impediment, it must be a means of discovery. And so we have to be careful to choose which technologies we use and how we use them, which databases are the best. There are many good ones out there, but there's simply so much information. We have to be able to know the difference between a Wikipedia article and a refereed journal that's in the first first tier, or a refereed article that's in a first tier journal.
Well, I've been visiting with Madison Sal here. Madison, I'm out of time today, but it's sure a pleasure having you here on the show.
Well, thank you. Come back to Buena Vista, Virginia anytime. We'd love to have you here.
And if a person wanted to get more information on the university, where would they go?
They'd go to our website, svu.edu.
Madison Sal, Provost at Southern Virginia University. We'll be right back after these messages.